You're still watching NBS Morning Breeze, the unauthoritative current affairs show in the land, bringing you up to speed with what the critical decisions look like in the country and how much they come to impact you as a Ugandan, and will bring you the stories that matter to you, those that you need to get to know and understand how much of an effect they could be on your life, but also the life of your children. And that's why we care to bring you the stories from everywhere across the country. NBS topical discussion with just starting in a bit. But for now, we need to remind you about the Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, who will be live tonight. He will be on NBS, he'll be on Sanyuka TV, and he'll be speaking to the critical issues of the kingdom. Ensonga zonna, ensonga semasonga za Buganda zonna ajja kuzogerako, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi zonna ajja kuzogerako, enteekateeka z'amateeka ga gavumenti, biki bye bandyagadde okulaba nga gavumenti y'Emmengo, bye bandyagadde okulaba central government ng'ekyusaamu, abantu gavumenti yandibakutte etya mu byokulonda, ebyobufuzi akaseera katuuse, biki bye balowooza bye tulina okwekenneenya ennyo mu kadde kano. And that will be shaping the discussion tonight. Adam Kungu will be hosting him, and he answers to most of the critical questions, most of the concerning questions, those that concern both the central and the government in Mengo. And that will be a bigger discussion tonight at 10 p.m. Uganda Eyencha ku Sanyuka TV. Here on NBS Morning Breeze, it's about time we look into the topical discussion. The MP Muhammad Nsereko is live with Simon Kagwanjala to look into the critical political matters in the country, the state of affairs, the events that happened overnight, the outcry that he has had on several issues to do with the city that he pretends over, the potholes, the questions of Kitezi, and so many others as a member of parliament for Kampala, but also as a national leader. What are the key things that he gets to see, that he gets to look on, and that he gets to look at and concern him, and how can those be addressed? He joins Simon Kagwanjala this morning, and yes, we join him just live. Simon Kagwanjala, very good morning to you, and over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, and what a time to go deep beneath all the headlines of what is shaping the political conversation in the country, and how are these things impacting the state of affairs. Well, I'll be speaking to Honorable Central, a very seasoned legislator and a political analyst.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for accepting us to have an interview with you this morning.
It's always a pleasure to have you, my
well,
brother.
For starters, just yesterday, the freshest story is about the sacking of Dorothy Chisaka, the executive director of KCC. What's your reaction?
Well, first, number one, the appointing authority has the mandate to disappoint. They were appointed by His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and it's within the law for him to disappoint them at any time, because all those public servants that serve under the executive, they only perform these duties for and on behalf of His Excellency the President. So you can't say it's not in order or it's in order.
Yeah, but sacked in public interest.
Yeah, absolutely, because all public officers hold offices in public interest. In public interest. That's where it goes back. That on behalf of His Excellency the President, who appoints you to perform those duties, whether you're a minister or a permanent secretary or an accounting officer, because the chief executive of the country is the President, who gives you part of his powers to perform that executive role in his image. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That is why I always say, when there is underperformance, the person to take responsibility must be the chief executive of the country. And who is the CEO of this country?
The President.
Absolutely. So the others are lieutenants that only help him in the performance, in the furthering of these duties on a day-to-day basis or on short-term or long-term contracts as they may so wish.
Well, what is so fundamental here is that it's coming in the wake of the Chitezi tragedy.
Yes.
Does that provide answers to the disaster?
No. It doesn't primarily provide answers, but it provides a short-term solution. You know what we call Byekwaso? Byekwaso was a gentleman who lived in a village. But why he was named Byekwaso was that for him, he would not go wrong. He was a chief. So he would get someone to say, it was Kagwanjala's mistake. For everything that would go wrong, Byekwaso.
To bring it home, who is Byekwaso?
I'm telling you the story about Byekwaso. Byekwaso is that someone who would say, for me, I'm always clean. It was someone who did not perform their duties. But in that case, let me bring it back to the real scenario without going to the matter of Byekwaso. When you wake up and say you're going to work for Byekwaso, just know Byekwaso is never wrong.
Who is Byekwaso?
I'm giving you, it's figurative. I'm giving you the story of Byekwaso. Byekwaso was a chief. And in this chiefdom, he would appoint lieutenants. But the principle of the survival of Byekwaso was based on the notion that Byekwaso does not do anything wrong, but for every wrong done, there must be someone to blame.
I want to connect the story.
So Byekwaso doesn't take a blame. The blame goes to Kagwanjala, who allowed to serve
under Byekwaso.
So
when I connect the story, there is a Byekwaso who fired a lieutenant. Okay.
That's the reality. Because if you read clearly, Chitezi has been there for so long. The issue was the decommissioning of Chitezi. But there was someone to have their head go. Of course, the city's infrastructure is not the best. The funding has been poor. It has always been known by everyone. But there are some good things that have been there. The quiet in the markets here and there. Things should have been done better. But also the circumstances under which the Kampala Capital City Act and law was, the spirit was put in place was to frustrate the political class, give all the powers to the president to appoint people that will put Kampala in shape. And in so doing, the audit that we should have now should be the following. That one, the powers shifted to the president in the last 15 years to fully run the city. Do we have better or do we have worse? Can we make it better? Can we make it worse? What is the best for our city? Because this city belongs to all of us. For the public officers that have been fired, this is not new. Jennifer Musi was there with the team that was fired before. And the issue was that it was underperformance. Came in Dorothy Chisaka and Luyimbazi.
No, there was Chitaka temporary.
Chitaka was temporary, but we are talking of substantive people who held the office. Now came in Dorothy and Luyimbazi, and they have also been fired. So, will this be a continuation of the chapter? The answer will always be yes. The reason is a mere change in officers without empowering them in every institution will give you the same results.
Okay. What more do we need to unpack about the Chitezi tragedy? The IGG has made her inquiry and submitted a report to the president. The president says he acted on the report of the IGG.
True.
And he's now sending the implicated officers to CID.
True. I mean, there is always a reason for everything. The Chitezi tragedy is definitely something that we all have to come out and say it was very absurd. It should not have happened. But it came from as far back as when? 2001, 2002, 2005, 2016, 2021, until it culminated into the disaster that we all saw. Should we have converted this waste into better use? For example, for power generation, for manure, better sorting. The people fired, are they the people that have sat there since 2001?
When
where
you
there
were,
are other officers.
is
So,
it personal culpability or institutional
no, it
liability?
is institutional. It is institutional. It has nothing to do with personalities. For me, I think people wanted these people to go as soon as yesterday, but they had to pick on a reason. They had to pick on a reason, I can tell you. So it's not new, but this is my advice to all public officers. It should not be good for any public officer or any individual for me to think that offices they hold are permanent. They are not, they are temporary. You're just there to serve the interests of the person in the top seat. They will hire you and disappoint you. I normally tell public officers that, listen, you can proudly swing around in those offices, in those beautiful chairs, but the time will come. It's just like death when you have to exit that office. Make sure you've not made as many enemies as possible outside your working field, even within the institutions that you serve. But also remember that those offices you hold, and I tell public officers directly, there will come a day when you don't have those offices. Prepare for that time. Both people that serve as technical officers, even us that hold these offices as politicians. There must be a day when President Museveni ceases to be the president of the republic.
Chisaka is out. Luimbaz is out. Okello is out.
I'm talking to all public
What
officers.
next?
They will appoint new ones who will also come a time when they will be out. You remember when we spoke?
You want to suggest that Kampala problems are endemic? No. Forever.
The entire institutional problems in the country. We have institutional problems. And I will tell you, tell me one functional institution. There's a time when we were saying, oh, Rosa Akol was she in URA?
Doris
Akol. Is she still there?
She's out.
And the institution is running. I can name as many people as possible who have been permanent secretaries. One was in the Ministry of Education recently, I think. And there was a reshuffle. Is she still there?
Lamoro something.
Yes. We had town clerks before that are not there anymore. For me, I'm talking directly to public officers. Whether you're a head teacher at a school holding a public office, whether you're a police officer, there was this gentleman, you remember him? Our...
Kaihura?
No, leave alone the General Kale Kaihura. There was this one who used to quell riots, our friend. Omara. Potea.
Yeah, but
he's now working in a private security firm. But what am I trying to say? Public officers treat people very well. It is important.
Okay.
Those you work with, even those that come to visit your offices, because there will reach a time when you vacate
if I can use your figurative speech, Byekwaso struck a sword.
It had to fall on someone, to land on someone.
Do you think the net should be cast wider?
That's absolutely about him. He's the appointing authority of all those people that are there.
No, in your opinion?
I don't mind. You see, it's him. You appoint all those directors. You appoint people that run the city. Fine, so be it. Do you understand?
Yeah, but as a stakeholder in the management of Kampala,
mind.
yourself.
You see, I would not mind if it's bringing proper accountability and proper management of the city. Fine, so be it. But the issue is wider. The issue is about funding of our infrastructure. The ordinary person sees that Chitezi. Do we need more land for Chitezi? Yes. Why is it that they are waking up now to look for 100 acres of land? Are you trying to say that the cabinet did not know that we had only one landfill? And that we had spoken time after time about that situation in Parliament? They didn't care. So something had to come up. These are people that only come up to firefight.
Was Chisaka a soft target?
No. Just like all other public officers, when something goes wrong, whether you're a DPC somewhere and something goes wrong, you'll end up in the net of Byekwaso. The principle of Byekwaso will touch you.
Okay, but when you get beneath the entire story of the mismanagement at Kampala, is there a case of political liability that we should also be investigating as a country?
Political liability what? Because all the political powers belong to the president. So who is politically in charge? I don't think, because politicians in Kampala do not take decisions. They don't take administrative decisions. It's known, it's part of the law. What decision can a political leader in Kampala tell anyone to seal a pothole? Absolutely no.
Would you argue that the buck stops with President Museveni on the mess in Kampala?
Yes, absolutely.
But he's now the one firing.
When people want to intervene in the management of the markets, he writes letters. The abattoir, he writes letters. Everywhere. So what happened? It's his letter that says you should give contracts for all roads in Kampala to DOT without procurement. That's him. When things fall apart, then you'll come back for the next accounting officer and say, you didn't follow the law. For me, I wrote a letter and said give all the roads to one company. Who cares? For him, he's not accountable. He cannot be taken to court. He's immune for as long as he's in power.
So then, how should the ordinary person or the public out there treat the sacking by President Museveni?
This is how the public should treat the sacking. All public officers are very scared to taking decisions because they think, the president, like he said, I've written over 170 letters recommending people to come to Chitezi and do power generation from the West, and none was acted upon. So this is the question I would like to ask you. So the president, having written the first one and no response, from number 1 to 170 investors, and yet no one had acted. That means if it was during Dorothy's term of 6 years, on average every 4 days the president recommended, or every 5 days, a different investor. 170 what?
Letters.
Investors to go and be given an opportunity to interface with the people of KCCA in order to turn this West into power.
And there was no response.
Rightly so. And there was no response. You mean the president could not pick up a phone and say, Mr. Kagwanja, I sent this person yesterday. What happened? Was there a follow-up? Later 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 170.
Are you throwing the ball back?
No, I'm only asking. Let's use mathematical data. On average, if you sat in office for 5 years, let's divide the number of days you had in office, let's say 1,000, or 3,000.
With the letters, with 170.
If you sat there for 10 years, assuming 5 years, 1,000 something, 500 days, divide with 170 letters by 170 letters. On average, every 10 to 20 days, the president was writing a letter about garbage. I'm referring to you, this investor. No answer. No answer. Then he's a very patient man.
So could there be more questions than answers?
No, the answer is simple. He who appoints has powers to disappoint. The president appointed these people to work on his behalf. He has all the powers to disappoint them. And none of us that can question those powers.
Chitezi is now behind us.
It can't be behind us.
The
people must be compensated. They must be relocated. And that is it. That is how it goes behind us. And what we would have to do is a new relocation plan. Decommission this one. Get a new landfill. And get a new proper policy of sorting garbage and making production of either power and manure out of the garbage that we have.
So is sacking of the directors more of a deflection?
Yes, absolutely. Because, our people forget easily, etc. But what am I trying to tell all public officers? Because tell me of any
But it's exciting to the public because there has been uproar.
Absolutely, like you've said. But tell me one institution that is not limping. Just name one.
Not off my mind.
Yeah, not off cuff. If you go to the airport, is it in the best shape? Is the president setting a precedent that he'll fire everyone where there is, you know, a little bit of mismanagement? You'll come back laughing, because at the end of the day, nearly every institution either is limping or is completely crippled.
So where does the sacking of Saka leave Byekwaso?
It is a test for Byekwaso.
I thought Byekwaso...
That Byekwaso must deploy the same task.
Byekwaso is now getting cheers from the public.
Let me ask you, what is the state of the health of Uganda? When you move to hospitals, let's use these cameras. Now, from there, let's move to hospitals and look at their performance. How many people on average die as a result of negligence in hospitals? Who is culpable?
The medical officers.
Let's move to agriculture. No, the one in charge, not medical officers. There are people that lose their lives as a result of supplies not being there. Who is culpable?
So if the buck stops with Byekwaso, then what?
Byekwaso. Like you've said it. If the buck stops with the CEO, then the CEO should be accountable.
Who is Byekwaso?
That chief that you had that I told you about, who never does anything wrong, but Njala, his lieutenant, must pay for Byekwaso's, you know, failures.
Well, very interesting. Moving on, there's been quite a lot of hysteria on the tweets that were posted by General Muhoozi Kainerugaba over the weekend, indicating that he will not be on the ballot come 2026, and advising his lieutenants, his supporters, his loyalists to vote for President Yoweri Museveni. What do you make of all this?
So what?
I thought it's big.
So what?
I mean, Muhoozi had brought a sense of fever, political fever.
So what? Who cares?
You should. You are into politics.
I don't care.
Muhoozi has been setting an agenda for the country.
So what? You've accepted to discuss that agenda. I will not.
Look, Muhoozi is a hot topic.
So what?
For the controversy that he has caused on the political scene.
So what?
So let's discuss it.
I will not. I decline.
Why are you KG on
I
this?
decline to discuss him.
Why?
Because it's inconsequential.
Okay, he's off the ballot. How is it then shaping the
But who had taken
2026?
him to the ballot?
He had declared interest.
So who is interested in discussing his interests?
I thought it's very critical. It's
To who?
at such a time, in a turning point.
Mr. Kagwanjala, who is interested in discussing everyone's personal interests?
No, it's not personal.
Instead of discussing...
This is national.
How is it national? Listen, instead of
The president's son,
let's discuss the state of the
the
nation's...
commander of
No, listen.
defense forces.
Listen,
No, look at this.
I don't care. And that's why I've asked you, so what? Tukuyambe
An
tutya.
army officer
So what?
engaging in politics.
I don't mind.
He has aroused masses.
What law hasn't been broken?
There is a PLU force
I
that
don't
is
mind.
emerging.
Fine.
That was a force to reckon with hitherto
From who? Were forced to reckon with by who?
in the political realm
Who told you?
by every temple.
Which temple?
No, seriously. Do you wish away Muhoozi?
I'm not wishing him away, but I don't have time to discuss that. The precious time that I have is to talk about the following. One, can we enhance the state?
No, Honorable Sereko, how inconsequential is the MK phenomena in the politics of the country?
Listen to me. It can be consequential to you, not to me. What I'm trying to say is what is more important to the nation. the state of our education of our children and the curriculum that we have, the general levels of unemployment that we have in the country.
Question. Muhoozi
I'm coming to that. Because at the moment there is someone still holding that public office. I'm talking about the high levels of unemployment, the levels of school dropouts, our broken education system, our broken healthcare system, land evictions, etc., broken infrastructure. So what is more important for the country to focus on?
But
an individual,
all these are hinged on governance.
An individual's interest. So what?
No.
I'm only asking you.
No, look at it this way.
Miss Anjala, are you setting an agenda for us to discuss it?
No.
What plan did he put forward so that we discuss it?
Fighting corruption, cleansing.
What plan did he put forward for us to discuss on education, on employment, on health care, etc.? So you want me to discuss an individual rather than discussing national issues?
I think you're treating yourself as an exception. The country is swayed.
I'm an exception.
The country is swayed by...
That is where I love you, Njala.
The critical subject of transition, where they see it is from father to son.
Who cares about that discussion? That discussion will be handled, not through rumors, but in 2021. Why don't you wait for the ballot?
No, there is a looming election, right? You agree?
No, there will be an election.
Come 2026.
There will be an election. So
Muhoozi says, support my father.
So what? Why should I discuss his views? Why don't you go and interview him against his own views?
No, because he's a force now.
So
he's
what?
A force in the political mix.
Listen, Mr. Kagwanjala, there is no way I narrow myself to discussing individuals' opinions. Because tomorrow there will be Kagwanjala making a headline. You're a very powerful man. Kagwanjala not to support any political candidate for presidential election. Then we all sit here. Basebo ne banyabo. Tukubaganye ebirowoozo ku ndowooza ya Kagwanjala. Mutunafuyiza nnyo nammwe. Temunafuya ntegeera y'Abannayuganda kutuuka ku ekyo. Nti buli opinion y'omuntu efuuka amawulire mu ggwanga.
You can't be dismissive on a phenomena that's been rising for the past couple of years.
Let me tell you, I will not fall prey.
Okay, politically speaking.
I will not fall prey to discussing people's opinions. You know General Muhoozi's office? Go and ask for an interview from him and interview him so that he discusses his opinion. Not me, I'm not his spokesman.
Okay, do you find it redundant that today our politics is now engrossed in discussing the personality of...
Because you've left politics of values to go for politics of personalities and individuals. Unfortunately, and I can tell you, this is what will soil the future of African leadership and politics and our agenda. And mark my word, instead of discussing the issue of rollout of digitization and technology as a way to bridge the gap between those that government can employ and those that can be employed by the global market. No, I'm being honest.
It's all a political question.
Yes.
Yes, it revolves around politics.
I agree.
And I feel intrigued that you put a so what to such a big thing.
So what? Because the reason is very simple. I have no time to discuss every individual's opinion because tomorrow there will be another individual and another individual and another individual. What happens? You become, you know, politics of Kadodi politics. Ani yayogedde ki? Bannange kakati wetwogerera Kagwanjala yayogedde ku kino nga mu discussinga Kagwanjala kati bannange ne gundi yakoze comment eno Katikkiro nga mu discussing eyo. So why haven't you asked me about the response of Katikkiro?
No, look.
No, I'm being very honest.
No,
do not
today,
I have a lot of respect for you. Do not draw me into that kind of politics.
No, today the country is so nervous
build your individual,
about post-Museveni.
Build your individual on your own. I will not be prey to discussing. I will not be drawn into discussing an individual. I'll be drawn into a discussion that talks about my nation.
No, as
And the future
Okay.
of the young people, over 24 million people,
Okay.
young people who have no jobs,
the,
who are not feeling...
the inevitable discussion now is a looming election in
Fine.
2026.
Let's talk about the election.
And the stakes in
Let's
it,
talk about
the stakes in
listen,
it include
let's
the president's son.
let's talk
President
about,
Museveni.
that's your view. Let's talk about electoral reforms. Let's talk about constitutional amendments, where this government promised to come up with a constitutional review commission for the last 7 years and has not provided funds for any or even appointed any. So these are the most important things that we should be discussing, that without electoral reforms, but discussing people's opinion. Tomorrow someone else will come up with an opinion. I might even come up with an opinion. Are you going to, make it move headlines that Honorable Nsereko said that maybe people should not participate in elections?
Okay. Does the Muhoozi phenomena matter in the politics of the country?
The answer is, so what? Tukuyambe tutya. Tukuyambe tutya mukuru. I will not
Help us
discuss it.
understand where the country is headed.
Do you have a better question that helps my
What
country?
do you make of Muhoozi's tweets?
I will not talk about
They have even gotten to the floor of parliament.
It's not, at least not through me. No. I will not lower myself to discussing someone's opinion.
Okay, as 2026 looms, there are emerging forces. One of them is PLU. It's now galvanizing for the NRM,
What's PLU?
Patriotic League of Uganda.
What is it? Is
It's
it
a
a political party?
No, it's a group, it's an amorphous entity that is now galvanizing, headed by the president's son,
So if
who hitherto had declared interest in the presidency.
if we get another group called the Toke Group, so we also sit here and start discussing Toke Group, or Byoya Byanswa Group, assuming we got another one, Byoya Byanswa Group.
So how do we structure?
We even had the Jobless Brotherhood. Do you remember those ones? Hey.
So how do we structure conversation around 2026?
We must structure that conversation constitutionally. There is a platform where we must discuss that, and it's the legislative body in Parliament.
Okay.
By talking about the aspirations of the people of Uganda through a legislative process. A process that has respect for all views of people of Uganda through their legislators, or through elected people, or even through consultations.
Isn't it affected by time?
Isn't
it too little, too late?
It is.
As Mao prepares now to bring a compendium.
We are
of
waiting for him.
reforms.
We are waiting for him with this compendium of electoral reforms. We are waiting for the Honorable Mao. But for us to start discussing individuals,
Do you have
talk
any,
about the taxes
Okay, do you have any
that are hitting hard.
Do you have any
traders.
reservations about Mao's reforms?
I've not seen them. Let me be honest. I wouldn't judge an individual without seeing what he's presenting. Let's be fair. It wouldn't be fair hearing. And you're one of those individuals that I respect from
Okay,
the
in
last
this case, the timing alone.
The timing is the real
Raises
timing.
eyebrows.
No. It's the real timing. He's actually late. The timing is the real timing. And I would like to say that he's probably a little bit late. He would have done it earlier so that there are wider consultations from the people. But we need electoral reforms. The reason is it's premised on the ruling that courts made. You remember? In the case of Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi. You remember? Versus General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and the Electoral Commission. So it's too late.
So should Ugandans really warm up to reforms? Will they? Do you envisage a moment where elections will be better, with just a few months away?
I pray so. I pray so. But the only thing that Ugandans have to do is to know that your vote counts. Let's get out and vote in large numbers. I further encourage you to do so. Do not give up. on participating in elections. There is that notion where people are trying to demoralize you by coming up with certain vague excuses and statements, etc. Please do not give up. Mainly the young people, the only way you express your will is not only to stand and contest, and I encourage you to do so, but also to go and vote. The first elections would be for the youth and the women councils. Please, all the youth outside there, get out, contest, and make your voices heard.
Okay. Muhoozi was a contender, was an aspirant in the election. He's now bowed out.
He was a what?
An aspirant for 2026.
Who nominated him?
No, he wasn't a candidate, but he was an aspirant.
But you see, you're the one speaking for him.
No, he declared his interest.
Where? How do we
via a tweet.
How how do we officially declare interest?
Okay.
How do you know that someone is a candidate in an election? You've been in an election.
You declare your bid.
Then
you declare your bid.
You
then
pick the forms.
You get nominated.
Yes.
Then you get nominated.
So you're
until now,
there are
he
rumors.
has been an aspirant
So you're
for
talking-
2026.
So you're talking about rumors.
So, is there any way that you feel
I will
he
not-
is shaping politics?
I will not discuss him.
Okay, what then?
Get a certain caliber of people who have a lot of who have nothing to do to discuss that matter. Ask me about the state of the country's employment, etc. Let's discuss that.
I'm intrigued by your so what? So what?
So what?
This dismissive attitude. You're talking about a general.
Hey, so what? The first general in Uganda.
The president's son.
Yes, so what? Kagwanjala. On
With
any other
political
day.
ambitions.
Yes, so what? How does that
Politics
affect?
of hegemony.
Listen,
Politics of hegemony.
So what?
It's very crucial.
So why aren't we talking about Dr. Besigye's ambitions? Why aren't we discussing Bobi Wine's ambitions? Why aren't we discussing, because these ones have been presidential candidates before. Or why aren't we talking about your ambitions?
Why wouldn't we talk about a young general who
driving
has held the country
you're
at
driving
ransom?
a narrative. I decline to be part of that discussion. Please get time, get those that vouch for him, or you go to him. He has all the rights to talk about himself and express his opinion, but get those that are willing to discuss that. I decline.
Well, Honorable Nsereko is asking, Muhoozi is out, so what? Let's take a break. Welcome back as we continue connecting the dots on the big political stories, going beneath the headlines and trying to digest and read into the implications of what they mean to national politics with Honorable Muhammad Nsereko and his so whatism. Why have our politics been defined by this so whatism, really?
Honorable Kagwanjala, when politics loses values, when the debate around the transformation of our country is not value-based, then it's driven by rumor mongers. You understand what I'm saying? By things that do not add value to the common man. The common individual needs service delivery. They need to go to a hospital and find a doctor and find a nurse, and eye triage is done. After it being done, prescription is done. They are treated and given proper medical care. So, how does the rhetoric between me and as an individual with another individual become so important to them that they will miss a meal the following day?
Okay, 2026 is around the corner, and it's more of individual talk. What else do you think should define or is defining the road to 2026?
For me, this is what I want to predict. That one, we want to use the electronic system of voting. I welcome it. But I would also love to predict and tell these individuals that you'll hear of a scenario where they'll talk about a malfunction of the gadgets and move away from the gadgets.
Remember the president complained recently.
Because it has not been tested. One, it requires a heavy investment. You know what happened when we had a simple exercise that could require simple coding and simple tabs and gadgets, which was the census. The role of deployment of technology is to have the following. 1, efficiency. 2, dynamism. 3, perfection. Now, the issue is if we deploy these gadgets, who will handle them? Aren't they crackable through the deployment of different cyber tools by hackers? Are they stable? Are they reliable? Do we have power in each and every place where we are going to deploy these gadgets? Or do they have the necessary batteries that have power? Can't we have in the middle what we call, for us that have some knowledge about cybersecurity, can't we have a man in the middle where you're transponding information from a given polling station and a man in the middle sits in between the communication line and sends a different message to the final server? Who will control the servers? Who will control that infrastructure? How do other players have access? Will it be an electronic register? How shall we ascertain this? We had the issue of the national identification. Will the national ID be the prerequisite for someone to appear on the voters' register? These are things we must discuss candidly.
Well, the president...
Can I vote?
The president hinted on something close to what you're saying. That
if I'm a voter and this election finds me in Yumbe and I'm a voter in Kampala Central, can I cast my vote in Yumbe, from Yumbe, and my vote for MP goes directly to my constituency, and my vote for president goes directly to the presidential tally line? I'm interested in understanding this. What time will be enough for training of all political players that are going to participate in this election, but also the voter management officers in the deployment of this particular technology? Who will be the provider of this technology?
How come what you're raising is not critical to the masses out there?
It is critical because it is what determines the electoral reforms that we are going to have.
Now, the president recently at the memorial of the late Aronda Nyakerima said the opposition rigged in Central Region.
I don't know. He didn't provide any evidence. And I want to discuss that. The reason
how weighty is the statement of the president as we get into 2026 with a system that's not yet tested?
He can only go to court to prove, to substantiate his allegations, because he was also a candidate in the election. So if he had felt that he had been rigged, he would have gone to court
by a million
to challenge the results.
Could there be an element of truth in what the president asserts?
Assuming it was true. Let's assume it is true. What does the Constitution and the electoral laws say? Any person that is aggrieved on the outcomes in the general election goes to court.
Yeah, but this has a bearing on the forthcoming election, doesn't it? It has a bearing.
That's what I'm saying.
The incumbent is bitter, disgruntled about the process.
Agreed. What would you advise the incumbent to do? A land person like Kagwanjala to come on TV and just say I was rigged?
Okay, do you look at this as lamentations?
You go to court or you ask for a forensic, which is a forensic audit of the election, including all players. You being present and those that contested against you presenting agents, and you display that evidence.
Do you get this sense that the country is sleepwalking into another election?
It's polarized. Polarized.
How?
Because no one knows the agenda that is being driven. It's not a common agenda. That's why I've said if we want to deploy the tools of technology, how are we putting together the safeguards? One, in the infrastructure of transmission of the hardware and the software. The hardware being the tools. How will you move them without them being compromised? Like you've heard, there was a pager incident in Lebanon. That means someone can compromise the hardware, the tool itself, that mini computer, and either blow you up or compromise what it will transpond remotely. Now that one we've understood. That's what we call a cyber attack, but by compromise of the hardware. Now let's talk of the software. These tools are meant to communicate with one another by transponding information from various servers, assuming someone sits in the middle, what we call man in the middle attack, or assuming someone sends a worm.
What you're saying is very alien to the ordinary voter. The ordinary voter is now looking at who is coming. But what is clear now is that there is President Museveni on the ballot, there is Robert Kyagulanyi on the ballot.
I want to discuss individuals. They can even be Kagwanjala.
No, they epitomize a lot.
No, but
they epitomize.
That's none
These are embodiments
so
of the opposition.
So what? That's none of my business. Let's discuss substance. Whether President Museveni doesn't appear, or Mr. Kyagulanyi, or myself, or yourself, the issue should be the process. And the role of the legislative arm is to come up with a law that is watertight, that safeguards the will of the person going to cast that vote.
While you dismiss this, I think it is also necessary to look at a second showdown between Robert Kyagulanyi and President Museveni. How does it define the odds?
I declined. That's rubbish. I will not discuss individuals. Like I've said from the beginning, don't draw me into a contest of discussing individuals. This one is short, this one is tall. This one says better, this one says less. Let's discuss the substance. What substance is President Museveni presenting? What substance are other candidates presenting? So don't draw me into a campaign of individuals. Let's talk about the substance that changes the lives of the people that everyone is meant to
what you're
present.
Discussing, what you're submitting now is too little too late.
But you asked me about...
The roadmap is already out.
No worry, my brother.
The Electoral Commission has already hit the road.
Mr. Kagwanjala,
the proposals that you bring in...
Did you ask me about elections?
Very ideal. You're talking
No,
ideals.
it's not a proposal.
Practically, what you're
suggesting... The Electoral
suggesting...
Commission said that it will be electronic voting if funded. And this is where I want people to focus. The issue of who you're going to vote might not matter if the process is compromised.
Is it compromised already?
That's why I'm telling you, if it's electronic voting, how do we safeguard? Are we going to draw the voter's roll from the registration in the national IDs? In any case, is the data still there? How many have their IDs expired? There was a promise and even funds were released. We appropriated money for issuance, for a new rollout for national IDs. The process has not taken off because of the bickering of who should provide the services. Now, if there are those that have attained 18, when will they update the voters register? You understand what I'm trying to say? The primary source of information would have been at registration of persons, of the national ID. It's not rolling out. We have 17 months to election. Which register are we going to use? How many children will have attained the age 18 by the time of voting? And that's also a big question. Or by the time of compilation of the voters register. Will it be an automated system that when I attain 18 by January, I'm entitled to be a voter? Or when they closed the issue of compilation of the national register? You understand
So
what I'm
what
saying?
does it mean now that the roadmap is out, but it is wrapped in a lot of questions that remain
is it.
unanswered?
Now, that is, rather than discussing individuals, that is where we have to discuss issues and matters. And the players, the rules of the game.
Yeah, but
We are telling you there are over 4 million young people, 4 to 5 million new young voters that must appear on that register. And there is someone frustrating the process of updating the national IDs. So if there is a late exercise of...
Just a second.
I repeat, if there is a late exercise of updating the new registration of new entrants on the national ID scheme that have attained 18, it automatically frustrates the update of the new register. So the new young voters, who are about 4 to 7 million, will not get onto that register. It compromises the integrity of the election.
So you want to suggest that the delay in issuing new IDs is deliberate?
So that is why I told you it's better we don't discuss individuals and we go for values. We need time. We need to interrogate that. These are the matters we need to discuss based on the data we have.
Where is Parliament in all this? Parliament
the question is that yesterday
Parliament is meant to be the ground.
But Parliament, I'm here, I'm your MP, I'm speaking.
No.
But yesterday when we were in the House, we asked for government, the government side, to present these matters immediately. It is delaying. So that is the narrative that the national broadcasters should pick up, so that they create awareness with the public. Therefore, we create civic agitation by bringing the public together with the leaders to demand for proper accountability in elections, so that General Museveni doesn't say in the future that he was denied his 1 million votes because of poor civic education. Let's give it time. Let's tell the people which tools we shall deploy. Let's create what we call a dry run or a mock exercise.
Well, while you share this insight, Honorable Mathias Mpuuga has indicated that he will be seeking the leave of Parliament to present a private member's bill on electoral reforms. Do you think they will cure anything?
Let's look at his, as a private member, he has that right.
But the timing.
There is nothing wrong with the timing.
Late? The roadmap is out.
My brother, it's never too late. You either want us to go back in the same cycle, which has been challenged in court now and again, and be like those fools that are bitten from the same hole by the same snake more than twice, because then you're termed as a what?
As a fool.
As a fool. Therefore, we have to stand our ground, pause all business in Parliament, unanimously, and state, or in a united front, and say, listen, we must have this for a proper election. After all, even the incumbent agrees
he was cheated.
If he says he was cheated, let's create avenues for a transparent election. I'm ready to be part of that discussion. So if Honorable Mpuuga has his views, let him present them. He should not be gagged. But the discussion yesterday was that the Speaker, when we had a constitutional, a motion for constitutional amendment as regards the RAPEX, rationalization bill, because it affected the constitution on matters of equal opportunities, merging it with the Human Rights Commission, etc. It required a constitutional amendment. And the question was, government said we will bring a compendium. Why is it in a hurry to amend the constitution when it suits them, and it's too reluctant to bring constitutional amendments when it suits the whole nation? And that is in determining the question, the key question of governance and transition of power.
As we get out of here, another very interesting business in Parliament is the Lumu proposal to look into the way the leader of opposition is appointed in Parliament. How keen are you on this discussion?
Let's wait for Lumu's proposal.
No, but it's being short, left, right, and center.
I don't mind. Give him a chance to present his proposal. I mean, why should we judge him before we see his proposal? That is also not fair. As a private member, he has all the rights to present his views and opinions.
As a member of Parliament?
Yes, absolutely.
Who is an independent?
Yeah, no, Lumu is DP.
No, what I mean, yourself.
Yes, he has all
do you feel there is need to look into the aspects that Honorable Lumu proposes?
But what stops him? The law allows him to present his views. So if the Parliament is not moved or is not convinced by his views, his bill will be thrown out. But if it's convinced, then it will carry the day. Let's discuss the matter on its own merits. Give him a chance. He has the right like every member.
Well, my takeaway as we leave is Honorable Nsereko has too many questions, but the biggest one is, so what? Any other so what?
So what?
Good one.